So we're following the line of the kings now. It's been chronicled for us. We had so much emphasis on David and Solomon, the two foundational kings, but now we're getting the succession of them, and they're rattling through one every couple of chapters. There's going to be very similar material and principles being drawn in these coming days as we read through them, but that's purposeful to emphasise and hammer home the big principles regarding our relationship with God. So let's read today and find out what we can learn. In the 18th year of the reign of Jeroboam, Abijah became king of Judah, and he reigned in Jerusalem for 3 years. His mother's name was Maacah, a daughter of Uriel and a daughter of Uriel of Gibeah. There was war between Abijah and Jeroboam. So remember, Abijah is Rehoboam's son. He's in the southern kingdom. Jeroboam is the one in the northern kingdom. Abijah went into battle with an army of 400,000 able fighting men, and Jeroboam drew up a battle line against him with 800,000 able troops. Math says Jeroboam wins. But Abijah stood on Mount Zemaraim in the hill country of Ephraim and said, Jeroboam and all Israel, listen to me. Don't you know that the Lord, the God of Israel, has given the kingship of Israel to David and his descendants forever by a covenant of salt? Yet Jeroboam, son of Nebat, an official of Solomon, son of David, rebelled against his master. Some worthless scoundrels gathered round him and opposed Rehoboam, son of Solomon, when he was young and indecisive and not strong enough to resist them. And now you plan to resist the kingdom of the Lord, which is in the hands of David's descendants. You are indeed a vast army, and have with you the golden calves that Jeroboam made to be your gods. Just pause there. So Abijah is setting the situation out between the two armies, and he's saying to the northern kingdom, we're the descendants of David. The promise was to David and his children for the throne, and not to Jeroboam. Actually, Jeroboam has led rebellion against my father. My father was unwise. He made bad decisions, but that doesn't justify the rebellion that is there. Now he goes on to say, now you plan to resist the kingdom of the Lord, which is in the hands of David's descendants. You are indeed a vast army, and have with you the golden calves that Jeroboam made to be your gods. But didn't you drive out the priests of the Lord, the sons of Aaron and the Levites, and make priests of your own as the peoples of other lands do? Whoever comes to consecrate himself with a young bull and 7 rams may become a priest of what are not gods. As for us, the Lord is our God, and we have not forsaken him. The priests who serve the Lord are sons of Aaron, and the Levites assist them. Every morning and evening they present burnt offerings and fragrant incense to the Lord. They set out the bread on the ceremonially clean table and light the lamps on the gold lampstand every evening. We are observing the requirements of the Lord our God, but you have forsaken him. So he's mentioned the king first. We're following the right king. Secondly, he's talking about the priesthood and the provision of the sacrifices, and saying that the northern kingdoms have made up their own, whereas the southern kingdom is following God's prescribed laws, and therefore they are God's people through the right priestly system. God is with us. He is our leader. His priests with their trumpets will sound the battle cry against you. People of Israel, do not fight against the Lord, the God of your ancestors, for you will not succeed. So here's the theological argument. You're following the wrong king. You're not following the right worship of God. In fact, your made up worship is of those who are not gods. We are God's people. God is with us. Please don't fight against us. We can't lose. So that's the theological argument. Now Jeroboam had sent troops round to the rear, so that while he was in front of Judah, the ambush was behind them. Judah turned and saw that they were being attacked at both front and rear. That's the military argument. While they're posturing about their theology, Jeroboam, with his greater number of troops, has surrounded them and attacks them from both sides. Jeroboam is not worried about the theology of this. He's worried about the military solution. Then Judah cried out to the Lord. The priests blew their trumpets, and the men of Judah raised the battle cry. At the sound of their battle cry, God routed Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. The Israelites fled before Judah, and God delivered them into their hands. Abijah and his troops inflicted heavy losses on them, so that there were 500,000 casualties among Israel's able men. The Israelites were subdued on that occasion, and the people of Judah were victorious because they relied on the Lord, the God of their ancestors. theology trumps military. They were right, they were following the true king, they were worshipping God in the right way, and therefore they were God's people, and they did know the victory, and they relied on the Lord. Folks, there's a real warning here. Theology matters. Pragmatics may seem to trump theology. We might be much more concerned about the things that we can see, but the math suggested that Jeroboam should have won. The military strategy suggests that Jeroboam should have won. But the theological answer that God was on their side meant that the southern kingdom won. This is an important principle for us to be remembering. Abijah pursued Jeroboam and took from him the towns of Bethel, Jeshanah and Ephron with their surrounding villages. Jeroboam did not again regain power during the time of Abijah, and the Lord struck him down, and he died. But Abijah grew in strength. He married 14 wives and had 22 sons and 16 daughters. The other events of Abijah's reign, what he did and what he said, are written in the annotations of the prophet Iddo. And Abijah rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David. Asa his son succeeded him as king, and in his days the country was at peace for 10 years. Asa did what was good and right in the eyes of the Lord his God. This is a repeated phrase and is so crucial. What really matters in all of these reigns is whether they did what was right in the eyes of the Lord or what was evil in the eyes of the Lord. He removed the foreign altars and the high places, smashed the sacred stones, and cut down the Asherah poles. He commanded Judah to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, and to obey his laws and commands. He removed the high places and incense altars in every town in Judah, and the kingdom was at peace under him. He built up the fortified cities of Judah, since the land was at peace. No one was at war with him during those years, for the Lord gave him rest. Let us build up these towns, he said to Judah, and put walls round them with towers and gates and bars. The land is still ours because we have sought the Lord our God. We sought him and he has given us rest on every side. So they built and prospered. Can you see how it's been emphasised again and again? In following the Lord they get rest. In following the Lord there is success. Asa had an army of 300,000 men from Judah, equipped with large shields and with spears, and 280,000 from Benjamin, armed with small shields and with bows. All these were brave fighting men. Zerah the Cushite marched out against them with an army of thousands upon thousands and 300 chariots, and came as far as Marishah. Asa went out to meet him, and they took up battle positions in the valley of Zephathah near Marishah. Then Asa called to the Lord his God and said, Lord, there is no one like you to help the powerless against the mighty. Help us, Lord our God, for we rely on you, and in your name we have come against this vast army. Lord, you are our God. Do not let mere mortals prevail against you. The Lord struck down the Cushites before Asa and Judah. The Cushites fled, and Asa and his army pursued them as far as Gerar. Such a great number of Cushites fell that they could not recover. They were crushed before the Lord and his forces. The men of Judah carried off a large amount of plunder. They destroyed all the villages around Gerar, for the terror of the Lord had fallen on them. They looted all these villages, since there was much plunder there. They also attacked the camps of the herdsmen, and carried off droves of sheep and goats and camels. Then they returned to Jerusalem. So it's emphasised time and time again that trusting in the Lord is what wins. Being in the line of God's king matters. A right system of worship is vital. That God's appointed priests and sacrificial system must be followed. Now we have to remember that we're the other side of Christ when we read these things. Tragically, Christians in the past have tried to draw straight lines and believe that it matters in battle whether God is on our side or not. But these are to the old covenant people, where God had made a promise to them about the land and them as a nation in that land, and if they followed his ways they would know blessing and security, and if they didn't they would meet the consequences. We're not under that covenant anymore. That covenant has been superseded, if you like. It was a temporary covenant. There is a greater underlying covenant that is sealed in the blood of the Lord Jesus Christ. But the principles are the same. We need to be in following God's appointed king. That is Jesus. That is where our hope is. Not some political leader, not some local church leader, not any other influencer. It's Jesus. It matters whether we're following or not. There is only one way to get right with God, through God's priest and sacrifices. And that priest and sacrifices is Jesus. It's his death and resurrection. It's his substitutionary death, dying in our place, bearing the penalty we deserve. That's the only way we can get right with God. No other system is right. Any other system is perpetuating false gods. And it's as we walk in right relationship with God that we know the victory. Paul says our battle isn't against flesh and blood. It's not nation against nation. It's against Satan and his forces trying to lead us away from God. And yet we can know the victory in those battles as we put our trust in the true and living God. So is Jesus your King? Make sure you are following him today. Are you right with God on God's terms, in God's way, through faith in the acceptable sacrifice that Jesus has laid down? Make sure you're trusting in him today. And where is your confidence lying in the spiritual battles that are going on day by day? Is it in Jesus? Are you walking in his ways and trusting in him? These are the principles for us to learn today. And the confidence we have is that Jesus, our King, Jesus, our priest, Jesus, our sacrifice, is worthy of our trust, and he will bring us safely through to victory. Not victory in some local spat or some national war, but in the biggest and most important of all stories, our relationship with God and the temptation of the devil, and whether we're in the kingdom of darkness or the kingdom of light, and where we're going to spend eternity. That's where trust in the Lord Jesus Christ and confidence in God brings us safely through to the right end. Let's learn these lessons and make sure that we are trusting in God's